Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal Podcast. This is the Bigfoot Only podcast. I apologize for the long delay in getting podcasts out. I have been sick with the flu. I'm still sick with the flu. You can kind of hear it in my voice. Just the last 2 weeks have been absolute, just being knocked on my butt pretty much in bed, just doing absolutely nothing. Not able to work or anything like that. So I just recently got back to work and stuff like that, which is good. Anyways, I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Amanda and I will probably go into a yearly review of what we did last year, talking about different places on a podcast, hopefully later this weekend or maybe next week. I know it's a little late with the review of last year, but we've just been severely busy with the holidays and then getting sick. Now she's sick too, which is fun. So if you can avoid getting the flu, I would highly recommend it. This thing is not fun at all. It's very nasty. Bear with me if I cough or I have to clear my throat here. Okay. So let's get back into things. The last time on the last Bigfoot Only podcast, we were talking about reports here in Texas. There's a lot of reports in the same locations. It just tells you that Bigfoots are by different people. And it just tells you that Bigfoots are being seen by multiple people in the same general areas, whether they're migrating through or maybe that's just an area that they frequent. Maybe they're hunting. Who knows? But maybe they're just watching people. Maybe they're just curious. Who knows? But a lot of cool stuff going on. Before we get into this, let me share my screen with you guys. And we're going to go here. Start here. Okay. So if you guys didn't know, you're able to actually buy us a coffee. This is on both our speaker website. There's a link below on all of our podcasts. We're on, I don't know, 60 different platforms now. So we're on so many platforms. Speaking of platforms, if you guys are leaving us a comment, we don't always get the comments from you guys. And trying to maintain reviewing 60 different platforms, like on a weekly basis is just basically undoable right now. Maybe if we can get an intern or two working for us in the future, helping us with that, and maybe helping with lives and stuff too. We'll probably start doing some lives this year. That's one of our things that we want to try and do, is do some more lives for you guys, either on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, Facebook, so you guys can see what we're doing and enjoy our experiences with us. So anyways, like I said, if you want to buy us a coffee, you can come on here and buy us a coffee. It just donates like $3 per coffee to us, and really helps us towards our goal of trying to upgrade our gear, because we're always upgrading gear. We're always looking to get newer, higher grade quality video cameras, because I don't know how many people have seen blob squatches out there. They're extremely hard to document, especially when you're walking through the middle of the forest in the middle of the night and you can't see where you're going, number one. Number two, it's pitch black and you're trying to document the noises you're hearing around you and trying to, determine whether that could be a Bigfoot or not. So anyways, this just helps us. It supports our channel. It basically helps us continue to do investigations and stuff like that, and do other cool things. This year, let me go over here. As you can see, this is our website, deepwoodsparanormal.com. We are offering, we're going to be offering different events. We're in the process of setting things up. Unfortunately, because of the flu and other things going on, we just kind of got stopped in our tracks. I don't know if this is going to be on January 21st now. We might have to push it back to February. Just because we lost almost 3 weeks being sick and other things. So we will be doing a ghost hunt at the San Jacinto Jail, San Jacinto Jail in Cold Springs, Texas, sometime either into this month or the beginning of maybe next. It's about going to be a couple-hour tour. You get to go through the jail and some of the other buildings on this old ghost town, and hopefully experience the entities that are there. It's only $20 per person. Again, most of this is going to go back to the jail because we need to support them. We need to make sure they're doing well. And we want to continue to help them renovate the jail and do whatever they need to do to keep this place open. This place is an amazing place. We really like it. Anyways, we're going to move on. So here's one place I'm going to give a shout out to this group. It's North American Wood Ape Conservancy. I really like their reports. They're very detailed. I do go over to the BFRO websites as well and other places to get documentation, but I find that these guys are credible. I've read their reports. I've read a lot of their reports, hundreds of them. So what I'm going to do every week is kind of maybe go through a few of these with you. If we don't have a guest on, talking about their Bigfoot experience. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, please feel free to reach out to us. The best way to get a hold of me is my actually cell. I don't care if everybody has it. It's 979-250-0072. You don't have to live in Texas. It could be pretty much anywhere around the world as long as we can understand you. And you speak somewhat good English, we would love to hear about your report. Unfortunately, we don't have an interpreter at this point, so maybe in the future we'll look into doing that as well, and getting people from other countries to talk about their Bigfoot reports, because Bigfoots aren't just in California or Texas or in certain states. They're worldwide, and all different shapes and sizes, different encounters, but a lot of the reports are very close to each other. So we're only focusing on Texas at this point. I've already pulled up one of these reports. I was very interested in this report here. Let's look here. Okay, so you can look this up for yourself if you want. This is reported in New Waverly, Texas, and I'm not going to go through the case file. It says an NAWAC investigator and journalist have encounter. And what's interesting is it's an investigator and a journalist, and they had an encounter again in the Sam Houston National Forest. I don't believe I've read this to you guys before. Let me go into this. It happened in January of 2005. It's in the Walker County, Texas area. The closest vicinity was New Waverly, a town called New Waverly. And this happened around 2 a.m. They said it was cloudy with a light breeze, cold in the National Forest. Now, like I said, Sam Houston and stuff like that always has Bigfoot reports. And the sad thing is only a very few actually come forward and tell their stories. I would imagine if we could get, the other people who have had experiences to come forward and feel free to talk about their experiences, we could really pin down certain areas where they're having experiences. I would imagine there's clusters, and let's just pop open the Google map here. I'll just show you what I'm talking about. If you're listening to this podcast, you're welcome to come over to our YouTube channel and look on here. Actually, I think this is the wrong email account. Here we go. All right, so I have a Google map that I keep, and you can just see the cluster of things. Now, not all of this is Bigfoot reports, but a majority of it is. Unfortunately, for some reason, some of my work pins actually got on here. I work for the government. Everybody's like cringing right now. Not in that way. I don't work, I basically work for the railroads, and I transport crews from point A to point B, from a depot to a sighting, or sighting to a depot, or sighting to a sighting. Um, Basically, that's what I do. I drive mainly at night, and I essentially I drive through a lot of this area where there's Bigfoot reports. I've seen all kinds of crazy things. Now, I've never seen a Bigfoot crossing the road. That's one thing I've yet to experience, and I'm hoping in the future I have an experience where I can say that couldn't have been anything else but a Bigfoot crossing the road. 90% of the time, you can tell what is crossing the road: deer, dogs, hogs, coyotes, sometimes wolves, and other things will run across right in front of you, or at least maybe even stop in the middle of the road. But, anyways, all right, so let's go into the Sam Houston National Forest real quick, which I believe is right up here. Yep, this is Sam Houston National Forest. All these blue pins, all of them are Bigfoot reports, this whole area. And if you just look at, if you divided Texas pretty much in half, the right side of Texas, if you're looking at the map, is just full of pins. Now, a lot of these pins if you're watching this, I probably have 100 pins just on the right side of Texas alone. Now, again, not all of them are Bigfoot reports. Some of them are ghost hunting. Some of them are other cryptids. Some of them are UFOs. But I basically have them all tagged on here. And I need to put down more. I need to be doing more research and adding more pins. I just don't have the time. Between working full time and doing the podcast and trying to do the investigations, it's just a lot. I'm still reviewing the OP Pile House, and I haven't even gotten to the other investigation we did into last year, which was the it was the hotel that we've gone to before, and I'm looking forward to getting that out. You have to bear with me. This flu has affected not only my stomach, it's mainly affected my head, and just trying to get my body back, and now it's attacking my lungs. It's just like systematically looking for weaknesses to try and make me sick. So, anyways, like I said, be careful around the flu right now. I supposedly had a new strain of the flu. It's probably the worst one I've ever had. The last time I had the flu was probably close to 15, 20 years ago. So, I mean, it just sucks. Anyways, all right. So let's get back to the small cluster. So these areas here, there's like 3 patches of the Sam Houston National Forest. Let's go here. There we go. So I've just turned this over to a topographical map so you guys can see the green more. But this whole area, this whole cluster of sightings is basically in the Sam Houston National Forest. So let's get back to the sighting. Okay. So it says, witness account. Mike Hall and I had just wrapped up our nightly operations on that Saturday night. If you guys want to read this, you're welcome to pause and read this. We'd hiked out of the area and met with Daryl Kohler, Alton Higgins. I apologize if I'm butchering these names, and other members of the group at the Forest Service Road where we had parked Mike's Jeep. We loaded our gear into the back and headed out to base camp as others left to go back into the woods to do some further research. Interested in getting back to base camp and getting warm and much needed sleep, I was concentrating on watching for animals in the roadway, which I can totally account for. God, there's always things running into the road out here, and there's always things in the road which don't belong there. Anyways, As I didn't want us to hit something and be stuck out there in the cold, Mike was driving, and there was no conversation until we topped the hill in the road. I saw something moving in the same direction that we were in the middle of the road. I pointed it out and asked, "What is that?" Mike slowed and asked, "What is that?" I answered, the thing in the road just beyond the headlights. Um, Mike looked and said, "Holy, you know what?" And I said, "Whatever it is, don't hit it." We saw a large, dark, upright, moving creature walking into the woods on the right side of the road. And then Mike realized what we were witnessing, stopped the Jeep and grabbed the gun and flashlight and jumped out to look for tracks. I stayed in the Jeep, not believing what I was seeing, with it running. As Mike scanned the woods, following the sounds he was hearing, he motioned for me to cut the engine and waved for me to join him. I did both reluctantly. As I got near Mike, he asked me to look where he was shining his flashlight and tell him what I saw. To my utter disbelief, I saw a large shape of a head and shoulders move quickly in between two trees and disappear. I must have blinked because there was only 1 second and gone. It was only there 1 second, and then it was gone. Bear with me, guys. I'm struggling right now. When we moved back into the Jeep and sat there amazed at what we just witnessed, there was no odor or sound other than what Mike had heard before I got out of the Jeep. In reflection on the event, I did have the feeling that we were being watched, and that's very, very common with Bigfoot encounters. It usually starts with a feeling of being watched, then you hear something, and then basically there's a sighting, and then hopefully somebody gets either a good picture or video, which again is very hard to do. These things seem to know when they're being watched or followed or anything like that, and they know how to elude people. I'd imagine they've been doing it for years. Okay. So Mike was so excited over this that he could hardly think. So I grabbed a pad and pen and said to him, "Here's what let's write this down." And basically, they're talking about what they saw. They're writing down their encounter. He was so shaken that he couldn't even write. So I looked over at him and dictated what we saw, and added what I saw. Not having any way to communicate with others in the woods, we didn't know what to do. Not thinking clearly because of excitement and the lack of sleep, we drove back to base camp where we were headed in the first place. Upon reaching camp, I couldn't face another cold night on the ground and begged Mike to take me into town to a nice warm motel. The next day, we returned and reported the incident to Daryl Kohler and the rest of the group. All right, so let's talk about that. Somebody sees something on the side of the road, probably either walking along the side of the road or maybe crossing the road to get to the other side and kind of maybe looking around to find a place to maybe enter or whatever. Then it sees, headlights coming, maybe probably stops, tries to look like a tree or something else. And essentially, because that's what Bigfoots do. They are really good at looking like a tree. I mean, they look like a person in a ghillie suit. If they're standing still, they might raise one hand and lower the other, kind of like walking like an Egyptian. And it's really hard to tell that they're there, especially if they turn their body sideways and you can't really see their face. They just look like a burned out tree stump sometimes, or just a really dark wood tree, because this fur hangs off of some of them have a longer fur, The fur just drapes down off of them, and it looks like branches and stuff. It's really hard to tell that you're looking at a Bigfoot unless you know what you're looking for. They stand completely still. They don't make any noises. They usually just, it's usually a split second. They're there. You think you see something, you turn back, it's gone. Um, and they're notorious for, and people don't know this. They're notorious for just dropping down on their tummies into the brush and belly crawling out of there or on all fours, looking like a bear. A lot of mistaken identity, I think, is them looking like a bear, probably. Because if you think about it, their shaped coned head, um, probably looks like the head of a bear, especially when they're down on all fours. But again, Bigfoots, when they're younger, they don't look the same as when they're older. Um, I've seen Bigfoots in all shapes and sizes, anywhere from about 4 or 5 feet tall all the way up to, I would imagine, at least 20 feet tall. And those bigger ones, from what other people have also described, I believe those are the dominant males. I believe they have one dominant male in their pack that leads the groups and stuff like that. Again, take all this with a grain of salt. This is just my theory. I always tell people I don't expect anybody to believe until they've had their own encounter where they can say it couldn't be anything else but. And you can put, Bigfoot in there, ghost in there, UFO, whatever, crypto creature, dog man, whatever. You have to have your own experience. So, anyways, my opinion on this is basically something was crossing the road, maybe crossing from one side to another, maybe saw a deer going across the road, maybe followed it, or just was trying to relocate to a different place. Maybe it was just out doing recon and got spotted, took off, went between a couple of trees, and then probably just, when they shine the light on it, it probably realized that they had seen it and probably dropped down on all fours or down on his tummy and just stayed there. A lot of the time they don't actually move away from where you think they were. They actually stay in that area, but they're so good at camouflaging themselves that basically you can't see them. Anyways, again, this is all just my take on what I think happened. And so that's pretty cool. That's a cool experience. I would love to have a road crossing sighting one of these days and maybe go check after it. So let's go to physical evidence. So it says the next day, after leading the group back to the spot in the road, there were several impressions found in a ditch and in the woods next to the road. Now, impressions, I'm guessing, means footprints. Additional observations. It was 5.5 to 6 feet tall, so probably a juvenile. At that point in time, maybe it was moving away from its group to find another group, or maybe it was just going off on its own. Who knows? It said it was moving upright, like a person, in the same direction that we were traveling. It had noticeably hair. And its head seemed domed and had no neck, which is totally normal with Bigfoots. As if its head rested right on its shoulders, which I've talked about that multiple times. It was very broad at the shoulders and thick. It never turned to look at us, so I don't know what the face looked like. We have no recollection of its hands or its lower body. Our focus was on how wide it was and how smooth that it moved. And for some reason, Bigfoots they don't walk the same as us. I believe they rotate their hips as they walk, which gives them that foot in front of another foot pattern, and that's how they're able to have such large gapes, in my opinion. I've seen them do this. So, like I said, this is just my experiences. You have to have your own experience. They said it was amazing, very graceful, no jerky movements, very fluid in its movement. Okay, so this is Daryl Coles. He was the investigator. And he basically just going over all this. So, anyways, that's one report from the Sam Houston National Forest. That's very common. A lot of people report them crossing the roads and stuff like that. So, anyways, that's very interesting. Like I said, I'd love to have a sighting like this. My sightings have been more close encounters, where Bigfoots will actually come down to where we are. You've heard me talk about Joe's Camp a million times. I mean, that's just such a special place to have Bigfoots come right through the middle of his camp, and for them to actually do it while we were there too, and check us out and see what we were doing, was interesting. Now the game is kind of up with them. They know about us. They know what we're doing. Sometime in the future, like I've talked about before, I'd like to go actually camp in the middle of, not the middle, but the side of Joe's camp, where all those tree bends are and stuff like that. I've got a 2-person tent now, and I'm just waiting for it to get a little bit warmer because I don't want to freeze my what's off. And it's just it's scary as hell, to be honest with you, because we've seen Bigfoots out there that are 13, 14 feet tall, and they're just massive creatures. In fact, we've seen a 20-footer out there. I think we've seen the dominant male out there. He was checking us out one night when I pulled up. I think they know, or at least they knew the sound of my Bronco at that point in time. I don't have the Bronco anymore, but they knew when I was there. I believe that they sit there and watch. And I'm hoping one of these days we get permission to go up onto the hill behind Joe's camp, because it's untapped. It has not been, nobody's been up there in 30, 40 years, according to Joe. Nobody goes up there. They're all afraid of going up in there. And we found tracks, footprints, large footprints, all different types of footprints leading up into that area. Who knows what the hell is up there? Talking about crypto creatures. I mean, we found what looks like a giant lizard footprint that was 18 inches long, heading up to that area just behind his cemetery. So, yeah, definitely a cool location. If you haven't been to the Sam Houston National Forest, it's a massive place. You can camp there, you can fish there, you can do all kinds of things. I think there's certain portions of the area where in certain parts of the year, if you have a license, you can actually go hunt deer and stuff like that. So it's just a massive, massive amount of area. Again, I've talked to multiple witnesses who've seen them in and around everywhere. Amanda and I are going to try and start doing maybe some public Bigfoot research hunts out in those areas. I got to talk to Joe and maybe see if we can set up a time where everybody can come out there and maybe camp on his property, and we'll do a Bigfoot investigation. Again, we have to donate a little bit of money to him, so I'm not sure what's going to cost to do that, but we have to ask him for permission and get his okay, and we'll take people out there and do a nighttime investigation, maybe a weekend out there, Friday, Saturday night or something like that. Anyways, if you're interested in any of that, keep an eye on our website. Again, I'm going to come back over here wherever our website went. There we go. I will be loading more stuff into the public ghost hunts. Again, we're working on going back to the Normandy Inn. We're looking at possibly setting up an overnight investigation for people to come in and spend the night in the Normandy Inn and experience the ghost for themselves. It's a very large place. It's a mansion. We'll get into this in another time. But anyways, so be looking for new events coming out. I'm sorry this is a little shorter. I'm just not feeling good. I'm going to try and put out at least 2 more podcasts this weekend for you guys. And then we'll be going me come back to my normal screen. So then we'll be trying to post 3 podcasts again every week from here on out. I want to get to the point where I'm doing either 5 or 6 or 7 a daily podcast, maybe some shorter podcasts, but some daily podcasts where we talk about things. So, and then also, lastly, we are working with a potential sponsor. I will be doing an unboxing video and submitting it to them to see if they're okay with it. And if it is, then we'll be posting that on our YouTube channel. I'm super excited. Ladies, you're going to be excited about this product. As you can see, the last time I was on here, it was scruffy and gross. My beard was like, I think it was almost 3 inches long. But my beard doesn't grow like down, it grows out and it just kind of curls back up at the top. And so basically I got a package and I use some of the product. I'm going to be using their product through the week, and then I'll be going through and talking to you guys about it weekly, probably talking about different products that I've been using, and give you a real fair assessment of what I think. So that's coming up. I can't mention the name at this point in time because we don't have permission, but in the future, be looking for that too. I'll be talking about that probably in the beginning of the podcast. So hope you guys are having a great weekend. Happy Friday to you, and we will catch you on the next one.